Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a conservative political activist and founder of Turning Point USA, which was a youth organization that promoted conservative values on college campuses across America. He started the organization when he was 18 and built it into one of the most influential conservative groups targeting young people. Kirk was known for his debate events called Prove Me Wrong, where he set up tables on campuses and invites students to challenge his views on topics like free speech, capitalism, and limited government. He was a strong supporter of Donald Trump and became a major voice in conservative media. His activism made him popular among young conservatives, but also made him a target for criticism from the left, who saw him as spreading right-wing ideology to students. On September 10, 2025, Kirk was at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah for his American Comeback Tour speaking series. He was engaging with an audience member about mass shootings when a single shot rang out. The bullet hit him in the neck, and he was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead. He was 31 years old. Investigators found that the gunman was positioned on a rooftop about 142 yards away from where Kirk was speaking to around 3,000 people. A 22-year-old man named Tyler Robinson was arrested less than 33 hours later after a massive manhunt. The FBI said that Robinson had an obsession with Kirk and had shown multiple warning signs before the shooting. Kirk's assassination shocked the conservative movement and sparked debates about political violence in America. His wife Erica Kirk vowed to continue holding Turning Point USA events in his memory. Yitzhak Rabin. Yitzhak Rabin was Israel's prime minister and a former military general who led Israel to victory in the Six-Day War. By the 1990s, he believed Israel needed peace with Palestinians to survive. In 1993, he signed the Oslo Accords with PLO leader Yasser Arafat, giving Palestinians limited self-government in the West Bank and Gaza. The deal was supposed to lead to a two-state solution, and Rabin won the Nobel Peace Prize for it. But right-wing Israelis and religious nationalists were furious, saying he was giving away Jewish land and betraying Israel's security. Protests turned violent, with people calling him a traitor and showing posters of him in Nazi uniform. On November 4, 1995, Rabin attended a peace rally in Tel Aviv with over 100,000 supporters. After it ended, he was walking to his car when Yigal Amir, a 25-year-old law student, shot him twice in the back at point-blank range. Rabin died on the operating table an hour later at age 73. Amir was a religious nationalist who believed killing Rabin was justified under Jewish law because his policies endangered Jewish lives, and he showed no remorse at his trial before getting life in prison. The assassination shocked Israel and destroyed momentum for the peace process, and many believed it killed any real chance for a two-state solution. Leon Trotsky. Leon Trotsky was a Marxist revolutionary who helped lead the Russian Revolution with Lenin in 1917. He believed in permanent revolution, which meant spreading communism worldwide instead of building it in just one country like Stalin wanted. After Lenin died in 1924, Stalin pushed Trotsky out of power and exiled him in 1929. Trotsky spent years criticizing Stalin from abroad and ended up in Mexico, living under the protection of Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo. On August 20, 1940, a Spanish communist named Ramon Mercader, who was actually a Soviet agent, got close to Trotsky by pretending to be a supporter. Mercader attacked him with an ice axe while Trotsky was reviewing an article. The blow didn't kill him right away, and Trotsky fought back before guards came in. He died the next day on August 21st. Stalin had orchestrated the whole assassination because Trotsky remained a threat even from thousands of miles away. Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a minister and human rights activist who pushed for black empowerment and self-defense, putting him in contrast with Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent approach. He joined the Nation of Islam, which combined Islamic teachings with black nationalism, and became their most famous voice in the early 1960s. He argued that black Americans had the right to defend themselves by any means necessary, and that white society would never accept black people as equals. His speeches attracted huge audiences, especially among young black people in northern cities. In 1964, Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam after finding corruption and disagreeing with the leader Elijah Muhammad. He converted to Sunni Islam, went to Mecca, and came back with a broader message about human rights, connecting black American struggles to anti-colonial movements in Africa and Asia. On February 21, 1965, Malcolm X was about to speak at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem when a disturbance broke out. 3 men rushed the stage and shot him multiple times. He was hit 21 times and died almost instantly at age 39. His wife, Betty Shabazz, and their daughters were there. 3 Nation of Islam members were convicted, though 2 were exonerated in 2021 after new evidence showed they were innocent. Question remains about whether the FBI or the NYPD were involved because they had informants and knew Malcolm was in danger. Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba was the first democratically elected prime minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo after independence from Belgium in 1960. He was a pan-Africanist who believed African nations should unite and control their own resources instead of being exploited by Europe. He wanted to nationalize Congo's mineral deposits, especially in Katanga, which had uranium, cobalt, and diamonds. This made Belgium and Western powers nervous. The CIA and Belgian intelligence plotted against him right after he took office. In September 1960, he was overthrown in a coup backed by the West and Mobutu Sese Seko, who later became dictator. Lumumba was arrested and held for months. On January 17, 1961, he was transferred to Katanga province, where his enemies controlled everything. And that same day, he was executed by firing squad with 2 of his ministers. Belgian officers were there during the execution, and his body was dissolved in acid to destroy evidence. The assassination was coordinated between Congolese separatists, Belgian forces, and Western intelligence who feared his socialist views. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the most visible leader of the American civil rights movement, pushing for racial equality through nonviolent protests inspired by Gandhi. He led the Montgomery bus boycott, organized the March on Washington where he gave his I Have a Dream speech, and fought for the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, which ended legal segregation. By the late 1960s, King expanded his focus to economic inequality and opposing the Vietnam War, which made him enemies in government. The FBI, under J. Edgar Hoover, watched King constantly and tried to destroy his reputation. On April 4, 1968, King was in Memphis supporting striking sanitation workers who were mostly black and demanding better conditions. He was standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel when a rifle shot him in the jaw and neck, severing his spinal cord. He died at the hospital an hour later at age 39. James Earl Ray was arrested 2 months later and confessed, though he later took it back, claiming he was framed. Many people, including King's family, questioned whether Ray acted alone or if the government agencies were involved. King's death sparked riots in over 100 cities and removed the strongest voice for nonviolence from the movement. Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara was president of Burkina Faso from 1983 to 1987, and people call him Africa's Che Guevara because of his revolutionary style. He renamed the country from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, which means land of upright people. Sankara was anti-imperialist and socialist, focusing on self-sufficiency, women's rights, environmental protection, and fighting corruption. He vaccinated millions of children, planted millions of trees, banned female genital mutilation, and promoted local production over foreign imports. He sold the government's Mercedes fleet and made Renault 5s the official car because they were the cheapest available. He cut his own salary and lived simply, which was rare for African leaders. His policies threatened French interests because France had deep economic control over former colonies. On October 15, 1987, his former friend, Blaise Compaoré, led a coup. Sankara was killed with 12 others during the attack. Compaoré took power and ruled for 27 years with French support, immediately reversing Sankara's reforms. Many believe France was involved because Sankara challenged French control over African economies. Alexei Navalny. Alexei Navalny was a Russian opposition leader and the most prominent critic of Putin's government. He exposed corruption among Russian officials through investigations showing how Putin and his allies stole billions from Russians. He organized protests that drew tens of thousands and tried running for president, though the government blocked him. In August of 2020, Navalny was poisoned with Novichok, a Soviet nerve agent, while in Siberia. He collapsed on a plane and was sent to Germany, where doctors confirmed poisoning. He survived after months of recovery, and internal investigators traced it to Russian intelligence, but Putin denied it. In January 2021, Navalny returned to Russia knowing he'd be arrested. He was taken at the airport, convicted on charges human rights groups called political, and sentenced to over 19 years in remote prison colonies, including one above the Arctic Circle. His health got worse in prison, and he was denied medical care and kept in solitary. On February 16, 2024, Russian authorities said Navalny died after feeling unwell and losing consciousness. He was 47. His widow, Yulia Navalnaya, and Western governments accused Putin of murder. In September 2024, lab tests shown that he had been poisoned again, confirming that his death wasn't natural. Navalny's murder shows how far authoritarian leaders go to silence critics, and it made him a martyr for Russian opposition. So that's it. And I'll be making similar videos, so subscribe to see them.